Christmas with a stranger. The man I loved never existed. Christmas is supposed to be a season of warmth, family, and truth. But on December 23rd, in the heart of New York City, I discovered that the man I planned to marry wasn't real. Not his name, not his job, not his past, and definitely not his intentions. My revenge didn't come from rage. It came from clarity and the desire to expose the darkness that hid behind his smile. This is the story of how my Christmas became a hunt for the truth, and how my fiancé learned that love is not a weakness, but the sharpest weapon a betrayed woman can wield. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. I always believed betrayal had a smell, something sharp, metallic, almost cold. But on December 23rd, it came as a whisper. I had invited my fiancé, Evan Ross, to spend Christmas with my family in New York. We'd been together 9 months, and my parents adored him, even though they'd only met him twice. He was polished, charming, with that soft Colorado accent that made him sound honest. But the moment he stepped through the door, something felt wrong. He greeted my parents like strangers, not politely, but like someone performing a script. My dad whispered, "He doesn't remember the bourbon he gifted me last time." My mom frowned at the watch on his wrist. It wasn't the same one he always wore. Everything about him felt slightly rearranged. But the real shock came when my 7-year-old nephew ran in, looked at Evan, and froze. "That's not him," the boy said quietly. "That's not the man who visited you before." Everyone laughed it off, except me, because children don't lie about faces. And in that moment, I realized something terrible. The man I had invited for Christmas was not the man I thought I knew. Dinner was supposed to be cozy, lasagna, garlic bread, snow swirling outside. But all night, I kept stealing glances at Evan. His eyes. They were different. Evan's real eyes were a soft hazel with a tiny gold speck under the left pupil. This Evan's eyes were flat brown, dark, expressionless. When I leaned closer to the dining table, his cologne hit me. Not the cedar amber scent he always wore. This was stronger, cheaper, almost chemical. My fiancé was a creature of routine. He wore the same brand of cologne for 5 years. So, why was everything different now? At one point, my sister pulled me aside. "Is Evan okay? He seems off." Off wasn't the word. He was wrong. But I needed proof. Something concrete. So after dinner, as my family settled to watch Home Alone, I grabbed his coat, pretending to hang it, but really reaching into the pockets. Inside was a wallet. Inside the wallet was an ID. And on the ID was a different name. Michael Lane, age 34. From Tennessee. My breath caught in my throat. My fiancé wasn't who he claimed to be. I planned to confront him right there, scream, demand answers, break the perfect Christmas illusion. But when I walked back into the living room, ready to unleash hell, I froze. Evan, or Michael, was sitting beside my father, helping him set up his new smart TV like nothing was wrong. The audacity. My heart banged against my ribs, but something deeper told me. Not yet. Watch him. Observe him. Understand the lie before exposing the liar. So I smiled, pretending nothing was wrong, and slipped the ID back into his coat. Every minute felt like a stab. Every laugh he faked. Every touch on my shoulder. Around 10 p.m., he said he needed a walk to clear his head. I followed him, quietly, out into the freezing New York night. He walked 2 blocks, turned a corner, and entered a cafe. Through the window, I saw him take out a different phone. Not the one he used with me. My stomach twisted. He dialed a number and whispered into the receiver. "Yeah, she has no idea. I'm in. Christmas will go smoothly." Then we disappear. Disappear? With who? With what? That night I made a decision. I would not confront him. I would expose him. But not yet. When we returned to my parents' house, everyone was asleep. He went straight to the guest room. I pretended to go to mine, but doubled back, cracking the door open slightly. He was texting on that second phone again. I needed that device. Around 2 a.m., he finally fell asleep. I crept into the room, my heart hammering in my chest. I slid the phone from beneath his hand with the precision of a surgeon. The screen lit up. Dozens of messages, all from unknown numbers. But one thread stood out. Phase 1 complete. Engagement confirmed. Make sure she trusts you. The inheritance must be transferred before New Year's Eve. My inheritance. From my grandfather. Worth nearly $2 million. My vision blurred. So that's why he appeared 9 months ago. Why he was perfect. Why he pushed for marriage. He wasn't here for love. He was here to steal everything. But the final message chilled me to the bone. If she finds out, eliminate her. Eliminate? I nearly dropped the phone. My fiancé wasn't just a liar. He might be dangerous. I slipped the phone back and backed out of the room, shaking. This wasn't betrayal. It was survival. The next morning, I woke up with only one thought. Find the real Evan Ross. If this man was using his identity, then the real Evan must exist somewhere, or must have existed. I searched my laptop, typing his real name. Nothing. Then I searched Michael Lane, Tennessee. The first hit was a mugshot. My breath left my body. Arrested for identity theft. Suspected in 2 disappearances. Released due to lack of evidence. My fiancé was a professional predator. I scrolled down to other photos, and that's when I saw something worse. A picture from 2020. Michael with another woman, smiling, holding her waist. The caption read, engaged. He'd done this before. But where was she now? Alive? Missing? I needed answers. I needed the truth. And I needed help. I packed a bag, grabbed my car keys, and told my parents I needed a quick drive. I wasn't leaving because I was scared. I was leaving because a woman in Tennessee might be dead. And I refused to be next. I booked the next flight from LaGuardia to Nashville. I didn't even tell Michael I was leaving. Let him think I was still sleeping. As the plane lifted into the sky, I stared out the window, replaying everything. His different eyes. His different cologne. His new watch. His fake warmth. He'd studied my fiancé's identity so well, but not perfectly. Not enough to fool a woman who loved the real version. But one question throbbed in my skull. Where was the real Evan Ross? When I landed in Tennessee, I rented a car and drove straight to the address listed on Michael Lane's old police report. A small, isolated cabin near the woods. As I pulled into the gravel driveway, my headlights illuminated something that made my blood turn to ice. A burnt photograph. Half disintegrated. But I could still see a man's face. Hazel eyes. Gold speck. The real Evan. He was gone. But the photo wasn't what scared me most. It was the message scratched into the wooden porch. He takes their lives and becomes them. My legs trembled. Michael didn't just steal identities. He consumed them. I drove straight to the local sheriff's office, requesting to see any files on Michael Lane. The officer's expression tightened when I said the name. "You're not the first woman to ask about him," she said quietly. My heart dropped. She handed me a folded piece of paper, an address. A safe house. "There's someone you should meet. She survived him." Survived? I drove to a quiet neighborhood, knocked on the door, and a woman around my age answered. Her face had scars. Her eyes were haunted. "My name is Aubrey," I whispered. "I think I'm engaged to the man who tried to kill you." She let me in instantly. Her name was Lily Parker, and 3 years ago, Michael had charmed her, proposed, and tried to drain her inheritance too. But she discovered the truth before he finished the job. "He doesn't love women," Lily said. "He hunts them. He becomes their soulmate, their dream, and when he's done, he becomes someone else." I felt sick. She showed me her old photos with him. His face was slightly different in each one, like he kept modifying his appearance to fit the character. But the last photo chilled me. It was taken 2 years ago, and he looked exactly like the man my nephew recognized. Not the man in my parents' living room. Meaning, there were 2 of them. "No, y disparat." "You're saying he has an accomplice?" Lily shook her head. Not an accomplice. A partner. Another con artist. They switch identities when it benefits them. My chest tightened.
2 men.
One scam. One Christmas plan. Everything started making sense. The slightly different face. The different cologne. The missing gold speck. The new watch. Michael wasn't pretending to be Evan anymore. He was pretending to be the version of Evan my family knew. A duplicate. A stand-in. A doppelganger. Why switch now?
I asked.
Because the real one is busy preparing something bigger, Lily said. I've been tracking both of them for years. Both of them? My hands shook as she laid out files, maps, documents connecting the men across states, Colorado, Texas, Florida. Then she pointed to a date circled in red. December 29th, Atlanta, Georgia. What is that? I asked. Lily swallowed. That's when they plan to transfer your inheritance abroad. Once the money moves, they'll vanish. And me. She held my gaze. They never leave loose ends. My throat closed. If I didn't act now, Christmas would be the last holiday I'd ever see. Revenge isn't anger. It's strategy. By the time I left Lily's house, I knew I couldn't run, couldn't hide, couldn't confront them directly. I had to outsmart them. Their scam relied on 3 things. 1, my trust. 2, my ignorance. 3, my silence. So I weaponized all 3. I called Michael from a burner phone, disguising my voice. Phase 1 is complete, I said softly.
There was a pause.
Then a slow chuckle on the other end. So you handled her? My stomach twisted. Of course. Good, he murmured. Stick to the script. We get the funds on the 29th. He hung up. My blood boiled, but my mind sharpened. If he believed his partner had handled me, then they would continue the plan, unaware that I was alive and preparing a trap. A trap that would need heavy checkmark proof of identity theft. Heavy checkmark recorded admissions. Heavy checkmark legal documentation. Heavy checkmark a financial trail. Heavy checkmark and both men present, all of which would converge in Atlanta. I wasn't just going to stop their scam. I was going to end their entire operation. And they would never see me coming. I returned to New York on Christmas night. The snow was falling gently, peaceful, mocking. Michael, posing as Evan, was sitting in my parents' living room, sipping cocoa. He smiled when he saw me. There you are, sweetheart. I was worried. Every word was poison. Every smile a wound. But I forced myself to act warm, confused, apologetic. I'm so sorry, I said softly. I just needed some air.
He reached for my hand.
His touch felt like ice. Inside, my heart was screaming. But outside, my performance was flawless. Because now I knew he wasn't who he said he was. He wasn't even the man he pretended to be. He was someone else entirely. A body double. A decoy. A mask. And standing in front of my family, holding a monster's hand, I made a vow. I would destroy both of them. Together. Completely. And by the end of the story, they would finally pay. The next morning, the fake Evan cooked breakfast like he belonged there. Pancakes. Bacon. Fresh coffee. My parents adore him. But I watched him like a hawk. At one point, he slipped and said, back in Memphis, Denver. My real fiancé's identity was from Denver. Memphis was Michael Lane's real base. The slip was tiny.
But deadly.
My mother paused. Memphis? I thought you lived in Colorado. He laughed it off. Slip of the tongue, ma'am. But I'd caught it. Another crack in his mask. Later, he reached for my hand again. For a moment his sleeve rolled back, and there it was. A small tattoo. A snake coiled around a letter. Lily's files had shown that exact tattoo on Michael's partner. Now I had confirmation. The man posing as Evan Ross was the partner, not Michael, meaning the real threat was still out there, watching us, planning, waiting for the kill. At noon, I excused myself and went upstairs to call my bank's fraud department. Hello, this is Aubrey Miles. I need to place a freeze on all inheritance transfers associated with my account. The agent typed for a moment, but then she said something that made my head spin. Ma'am, someone has already requested your transfer. 2 days ago. Requested? Under what authorization?
I asked.
Power of attorney signed by your fiancé. My blood ran cold, but I never signed anything. According to our system, you did. Notarized in Colorado. Colorado, meaning the real Evan, the man Michael once impersonated, had forged my signature. And because his identity was clean on paper, the bank believed it. Cancel everything, I ordered. Freeze every cent. Yes, ma'am. Effective immediately. I exhaled shakily.
Good.
But this also meant something terrifying. They knew they couldn't control me anymore. And when predators lose control, they attack. Around 4 p.m., snow began falling heavier. My family gathered near the window to admire the white Christmas scenery. That's when my dad frowned. Aubrey, you expecting a delivery? What delivery? He pointed. Across the street, partly hidden by a tree, was a black van.
No marquines. No plats.
My heart seized. Lily had warned me. They always use the same type of van.
Black.
Tinted windows. Rental.
Surveillance.
The partner was here, which meant the real one wasn't far. I pretended not to notice, acting normal while my insides twisted. Then something horrifying happened. The van door cracked open, just slightly, just enough for a camera lens to poke out. They were watching me, not the fake Evan.
Me.
Every instinct screamed at me to run, but instead, I smiled softly and whispered under my breath, "Keep watching. I'm watching you too." After dinner, I told the fake Evan I needed to pick up last-minute Christmas gifts for my nieces. He offered to drive. I lied, saying I needed alone time. I drove straight to the 110th precinct in New York. I walked up to the desk, my voice trembling but determined. I need to report 2 men for attempted identity theft, inheritance fraud, and possible homicide. The officer asked for proof. I delivered everything. Screenshots. Lily's statements. Michael Lane's mugshot. The fake Evans tattoo photo. The power of attorney request. The phone call recording. The officer's expression hardened. You're not the first woman tied to these men. Federal authorities are already tracking them. Can you protect my family? I whispered. Yes, he said. But we need them both in one place to detain them. They move constantly. My pulse raced. Atlanta. December 29th. That was the key. I can get them to Atlanta, I whispered. The officer leaned forward. Aubrey, that's incredibly dangerous.
Danger?
I said. They should fear me. When I returned home, the lights were dim. My mom smiled nervously. Sweetie, he's waiting for you in the living room. I stepped in and froze. The fake Evan was kneeling, holding a small velvet box. My breath vanished. Aubrey, he said gently, I realized I never proposed properly in front of your family. I want to make this Christmas perfect. Perfect? This was a trap. They needed the engagement official on record before the transfer deadline. But refusing him outright would expose my awareness. So I knelt beside him. Not accepting, just lowering myself to eye level. Stand up, I whispered softly, touching his cheek. Let's do this privately. His eyes softened. Hooked. Manipulated.
Good.
My parents clapped behind us. But he didn't know. He wasn't the hunter anymore. That night, while he slept, his burner phone buzzed under his pillow. I slid it out again, barely breathing. One message flashed. Atlanta ready. December 29th. Final step. Another. She must come willingly.
No struggle. No struggle.
Meaning they weren't planning to kill me immediately. They needed me conscious long enough to authorize something. Or sign something. Or confirm something. But the last message made my stomach twist. No mistakes like last time. Last time. Lily. The scars. The attempted murder. This time, they wanted a clean finish. But they underestimated something huge. This Christmas. I wasn't the victim. I was the storm. The next day, I pretended excitement. I told the fake Evan, I think we should take a small post-Christmas getaway. Just us. Maybe Atlanta. His eyes widened. Bingo. Atlanta, he repeated. Why there? Because there's a real estate seminar I've always wanted to attend. I lied. And we can celebrate our engagement. He hesitated, then nodded. Okay, let's do it. I watched his face carefully. He tried to hide it, but a flicker of satisfaction appeared. He was falling for the bait. Later, I planted more seeds. I left brochures for Atlanta hotels lying around. I casually mentioned I'd already packed. I told him I wanted to see where he grew up in Denver, knowing he'd correct me internally. At night, I whispered to myself, one step deeper into the trap. On the 27th, we left New York. Before we drove to JFK Airport, my father hugged me. Are you sure you're okay, pumpkin? I nodded. I didn't tell him the truth, because parents love too loudly. And loud love gets people killed. I simply whispered, I'll be back before New Year's. He kissed my forehead. Be safe. My mother cried quietly as we walked out. Fake Evan put his arm around me. You have such a loving family, he said. I looked up at him. Yes, I replied softly. And I intend to keep them safe from everything. He smirked, not realizing the threat behind my words. Christmas was over. Now came the justice. We landed in Atlanta at 6:13 p.m. The sky was a deep reddish purple, like bruised steel. The fake Evan booked us into a luxury hotel. Of course he did. They always used expensive distractions. At check-in, I spotted a man in a baseball cap sitting near the lobby fireplace. He looked up at us briefly, and my chest tightened. Michael, the real predator, watching us, tracking us, waiting for his moment. I clutched fake Evan's arm and pretended not to notice. But inside, my heart was a drum of fury. We took the elevator up. As the doors closed, fake Evan whispered, Relax, baby. Everything will be perfect here. I smiled weakly. Yes, I said. It will. Because the hotel wasn't just a hotel. It was wired. Police were already nearby, waiting, watching, preparing. But I needed both men in one room. And that moment wasn't here yet. The next morning, I woke before him. This was the day I'd bring both monsters into the same arena. The moment he opened his eyes, I smiled shyly. I was thinking, maybe we should have a romantic dinner tonight. He blinked. Suspicious. Why? Because I want to talk about the wedding. Maybe even plan our future. I watched his face. He softened. Hooked again. Dinner would be perfect. Good, I whispered. I'll make the reservation. In reality, the reservation wasn't to a restaurant. It was to the hotel's private executive suite, where microphones were hidden, where cameras recorded everything, where authorities waited 2 floors below with warrants. All I needed was for his partner, the real Michael, to walk into that room, and I would make sure he did. I texted the number from Michael's burner. Tonight. Private suite. She'll agree to everything. 5 seconds later, the reply came. On my way. My pulse quickened. This was it. The storm was gathering. And, tonight, justice would strike. By 7:45 p.m., the hotel's 43rd floor executive suite was ready. Hidden microphones in the lamps. Cameras behind the mirror and bookshelf. 2 federal agents positioned in the room next door, headsets on. But the success of this plan depended on one thing. Getting both men to enter the room willingly. I wore a simple red dress. Nothing dramatic. Nothing suspicious. A woman in love. A woman ready to be scammed. Fake Evan, Michael's partner, kept smiling as we walked down the hallway. You look beautiful, he said. Thank you, I whispered, looping my arm in his. My fiancé deserves the best. Inside, my heart thudded wildly. But on the outside, perfect serenity. We entered the suite. Soft jazz was playing. The scent of vanilla from the diffuser wrapped around the room. He scanned it subtly, like someone trained to sense danger. Damn, Relax, I whispered, kissing his cheek. It's just us. He exhaled. Believed the illusion.
Sat down.
Good. Now all we needed was the real Evan, the real Michael Lane. I texted. She's ready. And then, a knock on the door. Everything inside me turned to ice. Fake Evan stood quickly. Stay here, he told me. But I stepped forward first, placing a hand on his chest. No, let me. It's probably room service. He hesitated, then nodded. I opened the door slowly. And there he was. Michael Lane. The real one. The face from the mugshot. The predator with hazel eyes, no gold speck. The man who'd crafted an entire life out of lies. He smiled when he saw me. Aubrey, he said softly. Even prettier up close. I felt nausea crawl up my throat. Behind me, fake Evan approached. Everything ready? Michael asked him. Fake Evan nodded. It will be done tonight.
Done. Me.
My hands trembled, but I forced a smile. Come in, I said sweetly. I have something to show both of you. Michael stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind him. Both predators in the room. The trap was sealed. Now I just needed them to talk. I moved to the table and poured wine into 3 glasses. For celebration, I said. Michael laughed softly. Celebration of what? Trust, I replied. After all, you've both been preparing for this moment for months. Fake Evan smirked. She's catching on. Michael sat across from me, eyes sharp, calculating. So, Aubrey, what exactly do you think we've been preparing? I leaned forward. You want the truth? Both men nodded. I smiled softly. The inheritance. The identity swap. The forged documents in Colorado. The transfer planned for December 29th. The plan to make me disappear. Michael chuckled. You're smarter than the last one. Fake Evan snorted. Yeah, but smarter doesn't matter. We still win. Michael added. And since you came willingly, that makes this even easier.
There.
Confession. Every word recorded. Fake Evan raised his glass. To a perfect ending. I raised mine too. To justice, I whispered. Michael frowned. What? Before he could finish, the suite door burst open. Federal agents stormed in. Don't move. Hands up. Michael's face twisted in shock. Fake Evan lunged for me, but agents tackled him instantly. I stepped back calmly as both men were slammed onto the ground, handcuffed, and silenced. The microphones blinked. The cameras flashed. Justice roared like thunder. Christmas wasn't the ending. It was the beginning. As the agents dragged them up, Michael glared at me. You planned this, he hissed. I stepped closer, calm, steady, unbroken.
Yes.
Every second. Fake Evan spat blood on the carpet. You think this changes anything? We'll get out. We always do. I smiled sadly. No, not this time. I held up my phone and pressed play. Their voices echoed through the room. Engagement confirmed. She must come willingly. No mistakes like last time. We still win. Michael froze. Fake Evan's face drained of color. Agents nodded at me. You gave us exactly what we needed, one whispered. This case has been open for years. Today, you closed it. When they tried to pull Michael away, he lunged toward me again, rage exploding across his face. You ruined us. No. I cut him off. You ruined yourselves. I just turned on the lights. He snarled as they dragged him down the hall. Fake Evan looked back, desperation cracking his mask. Aubrey, please. I met his gaze. Don't beg now. You weren't begging when you planned my death. He lowered his head. For the first time, they were powerless. 3 months later, I stood inside a federal courtroom in Atlanta. Michael Lane, convicted of identity theft, fraud, attempted murder, conspiracy, and multiple interstate crimes. His partner, convicted on all counts, both sentenced to life without parole. But that wasn't the poetic justice. This was. The judge turned to me. Miss Miles, without your intelligence, bravery, and detailed evidence, these men could have continued harming women for years. The court hereby orders that all seized assets connected to their crimes, properties, accounts, vehicles, and offshore holdings be transferred to your name. My breath caught.
Milio.
Everything they stole from victims. Everything they planned to steal from me. All of it. Returned to the woman they tried to destroy. Poetic justice. After the hearing, I stepped outside into the Georgia sunshine. Lily Parker, scarred, strong, healing, waited for me. "They're gone," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "But we're still here." Christmas decorations still hung around the courthouse. Lights twinkling. Snowflakes taped to windows. A new beginning. I looked at Lily. "You ready to help other women like us?" She smiled. "Let's burn their whole legacy to the ground." And we did.
Together.
This Christmas, I learned something powerful. Betrayal can break you, but it can also build the strongest version of you. Love didn't save me.
Fear didn't guide me.
Revenge didn't consume me.
Justice did.
And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to stop running and start fighting back. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you.